As a muscle car guy, I'm probably the wrong person to review a compact SUV like the 2024 Dodge Hornet R, but when the folks at Dodge wanted to give it a quick spin, I was intrigued enough to give one a try. For the record, I have almost zero interest in the Hornet RT's PHEV hybrid status. I live in the desert, which means I'll drain the entire 40-odd miles of electric power before returning from the grocery store, but I still buy it. Some people who fill it up daily will be able to drive the Hornet RT like a city car and never have to put gas in it. For the more open-minded in the compact SUV market, I turn to my colleagues at MotorTrend, who keep track of all the endless little differences between SUV models. I'm a die-hard Dodge guy with a daily 807 horsepower super stock Challenger. So what you're about to read is 100% biased. Consider yourself aware. When I heard about the Hornet last year, it was the power shot that first got my heart racing. A boost of 25 horsepower from the Hornet RT's 1.3-liter twin-turbo electric powertrain. It's like nitrogen, only with electrons, and the bottle is empty after 15 seconds of use. Pull back the twin paddle shifter and boom. See you later, sucker. Dodge quotes the little four-banger at 288 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque, gas and electric combined, and also says it can do 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds. After finding the power shot, my first observation was that it broke, because I didn't notice any difference between the pants. Not a bit. We knew the power shot was on when my wife pointed out that the little electronic turbo icon on the top right of the instrument panel actually blinked when I pulled the paddles. In my opinion, there is a pretty big gap between what I expected from Dodge and what I got. As a performance brand within Stellantis, Dodge has a high performance mandate. As Dodge's entry-level car in this space, a high-tech twin-turbo direct-injected hybrid powerplant with a 25 HP power shot practically trumps performance, but the Hornet RT is neither the fastest nor the cheapest car in its class. I don't think I'll buy a compact SUV in the first place. I was expecting more with a Dodge sticker on it, but as we know, the Hornet is badged Alfa Romeo, less performance baggage to carry. Putting on my non-hot rod hat for a moment, the Hornet RT as an SUV has no problem. There's room for 4 adults and a child, plenty of tech in the navigation and entertainment category, and a decent-sized cargo area with a sunroof. The seats in this Alcantara-trimmed interior were comfortable, and the design has enough Dodge-ness to satisfy those who would never consider another brand. My wife liked the dashboard layout and complimented the HVAC vents, commenting on the nice tactile feel of the touch points. For those more familiar with compact SUVs than high-performance Dodges, the Hornet RT has a lot to recommend it. And its tight cornering and big brakes will appeal to the sportier crowd. If you try to treat the Hornet like a Dodge guy, be prepared to sacrifice some of the performance you expect from Hemis and Hellcats, even the VNT 2.2-liter turbo Shadow CSX for that matter. Dodge has a long history of making no-nonsense entry-level performers that goes back decades. Besides the Shelby-spec Shadow CSX, there was the Dodge Omni GLH and GLHS, the Dodge Daytona Turbo Z, the Dodge Dakota RT, the neon-based SRT4, and more recently the Dodge Nitro Detonator. These inexpensive entry-level Dodge performers were the result of tough choices by engineers and accountants, sometimes sacrificing quality or features in one area, such as interior parts and ride quality, to deliver high performance in the area that mattered most to the Dodge guys and girls. The Hornet RT is not one of those cars. Whether that's good or bad depends on the viewer, and in a hot rod, it's probably a bad thing. Despite the power shot feature, the Hornet RT doesn't feel all that quick, though it's a 0 to 60 dance by Dodge in about half the time of the Hornet. I'm spoiled. Starting with remembering to put the Hornet into sport mode before you leave the house, there's a lot of button pressing required for action. If you remember to do this, remember to pull back both of the Hornet's large paddle shifters when it's time to add your e-juice. They're 3 times the size of the paddles on my Challenger. Running in sport mode, the Hornet RT exhibits mildly authoritative towing ability, but there's no smoke show or even a lot of exhaust noise. You won't struggle with today's crop of cheaper sport compacts from Toyota or Honda, that's for sure. If there's one easy upgrade Dodge could make to the Hornet RT, it's to convert the Sport Mode button on the console to an Eco Mode button. So Sport Mode will be standard and Economy Mode will be optional. I say this because my performance-calibrated head has problems in standard hybrid mode. I won't mince my words, hybrid mode is downright lazy. And at one point I backed the Hornet out of a parking lot onto a busy street so slowly that I almost skidded sideways. The lesson I learned was to turn on sport mode every time I got into the Hornet. In hybrid mode, the steering is so weak that the wheel doesn't even feel connected to the chassis. Sport mode adds the necessary feel to the steering. On the open road, the Hornet's ride is fairly smooth, but you can feel its short wheelbase as it skims over bumps in the road. Jumps. Normally, I'd say the Hornet RT's suspension is a little over-tuned for its mission, but given its high center of gravity, short wheelbase, and 4,140-pound curb weight, it might already be in its sweet spot. Dodge may simply have had nowhere to go to soften things up, although I suspect a more appropriate 18-inch wheel tire combination would be a start, not to mention cheaper that way.